Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the court, for joining us this morning.
There's no court.
So,
You don't know what you're
Miss
talking about.
Ogden, would you please...
I'm not a miss.
Mr. Ogden. Would you care to explain to the jury where
There's
you
no
were...
court, there's no jury.
Where you were on the morning of Saturday at 11 o'clock?
I went to the Arizona branch of the International Dyslexia Association.
International. Oh, it's official, huh?
Simulation.
Yeah, I didn't even have to write it on your arm.
Walk in the shoes of a person who has dyslexia. Now, most of the people that were in attendance were classroom teachers, and they were there for professional development hours.
So what brought you to that?
You.
Oh, so I was nowhere in the presence. I was at home watching TV. And yes, I do have an alibi. My cat.
Anyway, so I went because I wanted to have a better understanding of what you experience when you try to learn things.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because that's what being a good mother is trying to understand things that I don't understand about you. Like,
interesting. Like, wait, what don't you understand?
Nearly everything.
Wait, why? I'm not the, in the words of you and Nate, you're not a mystery, Erica.
Well, certain things about you aren't a mystery, but the way that you learn and the way that you...
What's confusing about it?
Well, let's talk. Some of these modules.
So, let's talk business.
Okay. So the Arizona branch of the International Dyslexia Association had this simulation.
Again.
I know! And there were a bunch of different stations, and each station was designed to highlight a particular experience that a dyslexic child would have in a traditional classroom. As a homeschooler, I found this valuable for thinking about when we actually do some sit down and learn kind of work at home.
Now, what was your personal interpretation of the classes?
Well, let's start.
Okay, jeez.
So there were some writing stations and some listening stations and some reading stations. And I'll start with the writing stations. They had, I'm going to walk this over to the camera there. We have a very low-tech studio thing going on right here.
The witness may approach the jury.
Yeah, I'm going to show you, get a better look here.
You have to make sure it looks.
And okay, so you can kind of see, yeah, there we go, this star thing here. And you can see in between the two printed lines, there is a rather squiggly pencil looking line here. And that is what I had to do. But the way that I had to do it was there was a mirror set up right in front of me. This paper that I just showed you was down on the table. And then I had another paper that I had to put over my hand, and I had to guide.
Wouldn't it be like that?
No.
You couldn't see? Or
I can't see in any way.
Oh.
You know, unless I'm like this, but I was sitting up like this. So I had to watch in the mirror and move my hand through the outline being guided by the mirror.
Interesting.
Took a lot of concentration, and as you can see, I didn't do all that great.
This is weird. I keep having like this hot flash in my foot.
Okay. So the mirror thing continued with, I'm going to show you here.
Some very poorly shaped numbers.
The teacher there was talking about how we had learned how to make our numbers, and she wanted to see our very best numbers, and we had to do that in the mirror. With this thing, I ended up using muscle memory myself. I stopped looking at the mirror, and I just was like, okay, how to make that one, but the distance between the numbers wasn't there like it would be if I was writing just normally.
Interesting.
We also had to trace some letters, And I'll show you, kind of what that ended up looking like here with the very best one of the bunch. My S, you can see right there that I didn't do so well with that one.
It's Picasso, Mother.
I did okay with the other ones, but that one wasn't so hot. So that station, I did okay, but there were a lot of people sitting with me. We had 7 of us at a table. Some good chunk of the people that were sitting with me.
Wasn't it in your first testimony that you said that there were at least about 20?
Well, but they were
candidates?
set in stations, honey. We each went to a different station. So we went by table there were groups of people that totaled 20 or so.
If you were in different groups, how would you estimate the proper amount of people?
What do you mean?
I don't know.
You just look around. Anyway, so then we had another writing simulation, and we had to do this with our non-dominant hand. And I'll show you here what I did. So up on the top there, we had to copy the designs as neatly and as quickly as we could, and using our non-dominant hand. And I found that since writing with my non-dominant hand isn't automatic, it took a lot of focus just to make the letters. And then we had the teacher telling us, "Come on, kids, make it really nice. I want to see your best work, and hurry up." I obviously didn't make it all the way through here. Then in the next thing it says, "Put a dot in as many of the squares as you can in 5 seconds. Go." Well, yeah, I read that shapes, and I put a dot in everything, and I felt really smart at the end.
Everything, dot.
Then the next thing here was to write a cursive alphabet with my non-dominant hand, which I did, and I did pretty well, but I don't struggle with writing.
It looks like my regular handwriting.
Then we had another, trace this design as you count from 975 to 1032 out loud. I really didn't understand the purpose of that, and I didn't do a very good job.
It's multitasking. Because you're trying to figure out what number comes next.
But that's like automatic.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No,
because
it's not.
Because you repeat the pattern over and over and over again.
You have to concentrate on that too, and also doing something that you're unfamiliar of.
Could you start at 975 and just go from there, or would you have to count up to 975?
976, 977.
Non-dominant hand.
Oh, geez, alright, I don't know. You failed on that squiggly part.
Well, I did it over and over and over again. This is not just one time.
Okay.
It's several times.
Because it kind of goes like, you, and then I'll just do whoop. It's like, nope.
And then below is a name written in the manuscript. Trace it until you can write it from memory. When you're ready, turn your paper over, and I didn't do so hot on that one either. So, yeah, you
can even see it.
Well, I was trying to ignore it.
Oh, why?
Because I felt like that would be cheating.
But if you're in the real world, you would just see it and be like, oh, okay, that's what he needs to do. What?
Anyway, whatever.
It's how you make it easier.
Okay. The next one that we did was a listen kind of activity.
Listen to me.
So we had a CD, and we were instructed to listen to a particular voice. And with that particular voice, she was giving instructions for filling in this form, and I'll come walk it over.
You also made sure it's running, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's part of walking over here.
Just checking it.
So you can see that this has different columns here, and I was supposed to put something in each column, and you can see that I didn't. Okay, well, there's a reason for that. The reason is that on that same CD,
there's a bunch of jumbled noise.
A bunch of other voices, a bunch of other people talking and giving instructions and saying things.
There was Jared singing on it.
And then there was also the ambient noise going on in the classroom. And so I could barely hear the CD itself, including all of the other noise, because I was sitting at the far end of the table.
And you couldn't ask for it to be moved?
No. So I could barely hear it to begin with. But trying to hear and focus on the directions from the person that was talking while listening to lots of other voices at the same time was so irritating and frustrating.
It's like one of those, that awkward moment when you've already said what 3 times and you still don't understand it, or you still can't hear them.
Yeah. I couldn't hear her, and I finally quit trying. I stopped trying to hear her because it was like hopeless. I knew that I couldn't hear her, and I was going to miss so much no matter what I did that I just went, okay. And I started to daydream.
Daydreaming is fun, isn't it?
Yeah, except that I felt like I was supposed to be doing something else, and so I felt like kind of guilty.
That's a normal feeling, though. This is why you daydream, because if it's already hopeless, it's kind of a fallback technique to just kind of make yourself feel better. It's like, but yeah, it does. You do feel bad that you didn't do it, but you already. Okay, I was in this one class one time, couldn't hear anything. I resisted like half the time. I was like kind of in and out of the daydreaming coma. But anyway, so I was trying to take notes and everything, and then later, like everybody else was discussing it, I was so off topic. I didn't even know what to do. I was like, wait, what? That's what I want?
So how did you miss that if you were taking notes?
Huh? I didn't get the big picture, and I was here.
The big picture, you just take little details to make the big picture.
No.
You put a little detail here, a little detail here.
How do you know it went there? How do you know it goes there?
Because
what if it doesn't? What if it goes over here?
Then you move it.
No, if you pin it, it stays there.
No.
Yeah.
If you have a puzzle piece,
okay,
you spread the puzzle pieces out all over the place. They don't stay there. You pick them up and you move them into their right spot.
No.
Then they don't move, and it's a jumbled mess.
No, okay. If you have part of the puzzle pieces assembled, and then you're like, I think this one goes there, but it's not attached to anything. There's no roots. It's like, why is this important? There's nothing attaching it or linking it to the other.
But it will be, because you can see all the other pieces.
How do you know?
Because you can see all the other pieces.
So
you know that those other pieces will fill in the gaps.
But at the moment, you're like, I don't need this. We'll get it there. We'll get there. We'll get there eventually. You lose that, and you kind of like you did that to like half the other pieces.
So how does somebody give you the big picture?
They assemble it for you.
What part of this don't you understand? The answering part.
Okay, we were.
Never mind.
No. I had this test to do, and I was like, this is so confusing, and this is in front of the whole class, and the guy, I'm like, this is so confusing. I don't know where, I can't find anything, and the guy goes, well, what are you having trouble with? And I stand there, I was like, the answering part. The whole class busts out in laughter, and so I'm like, what? That's the problem. And then a couple other people turn to me and they're just like, for real, man. But
okay,
yeah.
So
wait, what were we talking about?
Nothing.
Oh,
anyway,
but there's a video, so we're obviously talking about something.
When I was done with this, and I didn't have anything.
You got like 2.
Not even 2. You know, we talked about what you'd think as a teacher. What would you think if, as a presenter, if somebody passed this to you at the end?
Did they fall asleep?
Yeah, they must not have cared. They didn't try. They didn't pay attention or whatever. Yeah. When really, you know, in the beginning, before I realized it was hopeless, I was really, really exerting a lot of energy and focus trying to hear her. I mean, do you give up at first, or do you try before you give up?
Try.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's important for teachers in school.
Generally, you can't give up.
For teachers in school and for homeschooling parents to realize that what looks like not caring, not trying, not paying attention may actually not be that. And you know, all the times that I said you were being lazy or whatever, I didn't realize the tremendous amount of energy and focus you were sinking into it to begin with, because you still looked like you were being lazy.
Yeah. generally you can't give up, because if you give up, that means you're basically failing the rest of the class, because if you give up on this part, then you know there's a chunk of that will be in the test.
But there's 8 other columns here that I didn't fill anything out in, so
Yeah.
I knew.
Even if you get, okay, imagine you're in school, and this is like the Civil War or something, and and there's like a test on it. If you don't fill this out and get all this, then you know you're gonna fail at least part of the test there.
Right, but I didn't get anything
Yeah.
here, so
So
I
you
wouldn't
can't-
bother. I wouldn't bother
But you
even
can't.
trying to take the
You
test.
have to
So what do you do?
kind of suck it up and do your best.
Okay, but I did suck it up and do my best before I figured out I couldn't hear anything.
And you keep going, or after the class, you discuss it amongst yourselves and be like, "What'd you get?"
Okay.
But you'll find loopholes around it.
Anyway, so the other 2 stations had to do with reading, and
Oh
one.
wait, we're not even close to done.
No, we're not. So the reading ones, there was one that looks kind of like Greek, actually, to me, the way the symbols were set up. So I'm going to walk myself over and show you kind of what I'm talking about here. Let's see here, where is wizard? Okay, so there, you can see in parentheses the word wizard, and right next to it is a bunch of symbols. So those symbols, when you see them in the book, mean the word wizard. And you are supposed to look at that and remember that that means wizard. Now, in addition to that, every other word in the book looks exactly like that, but with different sort of symbols and a different arrangement.
That's basically the language.
Yeah, it's the language.
Yeah. Wait, what's wizard? Yeah.
So that means, and you weren't allowed to flip back and forth
No,
to double check it. So,
just remember it.
but you have to just remember that one and everything else.
How many words were there?
Well, it was like a 20-page book with 3 or 4 sentences per page,
Oh,
all filled with this.
you're screwed.
Yeah. And so you look at it and you go, what? And then 3 pages in, I'm ready to quit. I'm sitting there going, how much longer?
Mm-hmm.
I felt
It's like you'd rather be doing anything but that.
anything
Yeah.
but that.
Yeah.
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 And the teacher, meanwhile, is saying, come on, kids, let's read this fluently. We've studied this before.
And just because we studied it doesn't mean I'm going to be any better.
I felt hopeless. And I was really glad that everybody else at that table was in the same boat. Because, I mean, like, what if I was the only one?
That would be embarrassing.
Have you been the only one?
Yeah.
And is it embarrassing?
Yeah.
And what do you do about it?
You wait till it's over.
And then what?
You leave.
And then what?
Don't go back.
Well, what if you can't not go back?
You change your name.
By page 4, I was thinking, no wonder these kids feel stupid because,
Some kids will actually play it off like they don't care because it's easier to admit that, yeah, I just didn't care about the test, then I couldn't do the test.
So these teachers were playing the role of a well-intentioned normal classroom teacher or a normal homeschool parent who doesn't know anything about dyslexia because they haven't had any specific instruction about what dyslexia looks like, how students will experience dyslexia, or how to teach kids with dyslexia.
How long was the, I can't remember the word, it starts with an S.
Simulation.
How long was that simulation?
An hour and a half.
Imagine that every day, 8 hours a day.
Well, it would suck. So I'm thinking, imagine all the damage that these teachers and parents can do. And then I'm thinking about my own experiences because she wasn't diagnosed until she was 12 and a half. So she spent the formative years of her, early elementary and stuff. I didn't know. I just thought there's this huge gap between what I believed that she was intellectually capable of and what she was actually producing. And the only way I could reconcile that was